So I'm going to talk about BE, which is a non-decided way to pronounce name, but standing for BioImage Informatics Index. And the idea is that it's something that came bottom up from the bioimage analysis community. I'm going to define what is bioimage analysis, and that's something that we wanted to be fed, I would say, in a Wikipedia way by the community itself. So just because I know you're coming from very different fields, here what I'm going to talk about is a very specific field in the bioimaging system. So bioimaging is everything related to cellular, tissular, cell imaging. So not talking about medical imaging, really imaging cell tissue, not human or really human, and at the microscopic scales. And our community, I would say, is composed by different sub-communities according to also their skills or the interest in research questions. So the first one, of course, is the life scientists, so the biologists, which were the one going to ask the biological questions. Then we have the people dealing with the development on the usage of the high technology acquisition machines that we have, so creating the data in microscopy. And then we have a community also by itself, which is actually computer science people, but also signal processing, image processing science, developing new algorithms, and most of the time trying to implement them in usable software packages. And most of the time when comes biological questions, we need to adapt or to find the correct software to answer a specific question. There is not that much of standards of questions in life science, meaning that there is a lot of way to address a question, meaning a lot of different bioimage data and different questions to ask to this data. So most of the time, if not all time, you have to adjust the strategy to extract data from the acquisition, constructing different workflows. So as it is, I guess, in other fields. And this is something that the people who have been creating this registry, we have been seeing in the last decade, I would say, the creation of a new kind of data scientists, which are bioimage analysts, meaning people that are sometimes also developers, but most of the time they are communicating with instrumentalists and life scientists in order to find the right solution to the questions which were asked. And then we are creating like different workflows based on in the vocabulary that we have selected based on different components. I'm just moving my Zoom, sorry. Yes. And so what is the bioimage information index? So what we trying to do, we are not hosting any code, any data, whatever. What we are doing is just referencing bioimage analysis tools and functions, and in a way which is meaningful for people from our community. And so what we try also is to address the needs of different communities, sub-communities constituting the big community of bioimaging then. And the idea is that everything is curated by the different community members. And something we try also to do is linking these different communities. So basically, when we describe a software, we try to describe it using different vocabularies. So the one we have been creating together with the EDAM team was an extension of EDAM, which is an ontology which is very standard now in bioinformatics. So we try to extend it for bioimage informatics. And we try also, and this is still work on progress, to link the vocabulary that we can have in image processing, for example, with the vocabulary in biology. So, for example, a biological person will find a tool to process microtubules, which is a biological object in cells. And the principle is that at some points, the microtubules, you will see that it corresponds to the image processing function like file element tracing. And from this, you will be able to discover other tools, maybe not targeted at microtubules, but that could work on microtubules. Let's like this one, for example. Something which was behind BE was, of course, there is a database which is exposed and fed through a website. Technically speaking, it's basically a Drupal website with some extension. And then we have two data models. One which was driven by Alban Guignard. So I don't know if you know him. I know Hervé knows him very well. Just to describe what was a software, and the second one to describe the kind of topic operations that a software is doing. We were lucky to be identified as a resource of interest, something, or interoperability resource, or I don't remember exactly the acronym, by ETCR, which is a European infrastructure. And we were also supported by Euro Bioimaging and Global Bioimaging. And we have been working also with the team from BioTools in order to construct this EDAM bioimaging ontology. So the idea is that the contributions to this open database are open, so everyone can tag from home, I would say, with some guidelines to do it. And we try to organize also what we call tagathons. So because you tag stuff, you're creating tagging. And that was very useful also to construct and define what was expected from the community. Thank you, recommended interoperability resource, yes, for the real. So I'm going very fast, so maybe you can ask questions at the end, but Hervé has been attending some of these tagathons, by the way, and really helping us also about the construction of the tools. So there is different things that we are referencing. So it's mostly about software, but because of the community interest, it's also about data sets or linked to a database with data of interest, in particular for image processing in biology, and training materials, which is tiny here. And yes, we try to do some interactive workflow visualization or this kind of thing. The really long-term roadmap maybe would be to be able to construct automatically workflows from according to tasks you want to realize. EDAM bioimaging, so an extension from EDAM, I was talking about that. So I don't know how much you know EDAM, I guess Hervé has been introducing it already, but then it was extended as a specific branch for the specific vocabularies and concept and try to be aligned. I want to mention also that Alban Guignard also have been working on the alignment of this ontology with bioschema, which is another schemes then which is really used in biology. That it's here, by the way. So we can actually extract data. The website is exposing the data, but the database is released under the open database license. I don't know why we stick to 1.0, but we stick to 1.0. And then it can be used by anyone else. So it's exposed, it's imported also in a way that it could be re-imported in BioTools, for example, but it's also imported by sub-communities from our communities. For example, people specialized in a specific kind of microscopy are feeding their own registries just based on our database. So they don't feed anything. They go through our database to feed. And this is, for example, the extraction and the presentations that they have selected in order to expose a specific software of interest for them. And we also provide some in the very commonly used software in our field, such as Fiji, IMAGE, maybe you know from the astronomy side also. And we have a specific search bar looking in our database as well. So I was talking about tagathons. We are lucky to have some funding by a cost European actions, which were allowing these tagathons. I have to mention that we started before this funding. So the first tagathons were organized with people self-funding themselves to come. And now we are lucky also to have a new CDI funding, which is for the network itself, but it's planned to do some satellite tagathons also during the events of this bioimage analysis community. And yeah, and we try, and the big plan also is to try to enforce different biological meeting, for example, to have somebody to organize some satellite event to do some tagging, in particular for a specific term of biology and specific workflows in biology in a specific questions. So I will stop here and take any question. Video.
How long did, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask for questions, but Alice, you can go ahead.
Well, I was wondering how long you've been doing tagathons and how you started doing them, because I'm really envious of the number of collaborator taggers you have.
So the very first tagathons, which was yet not called a tagathon, but was organized in 2011. Okay, and then we got this funding from COST starting in 2012. And was it 12 or 13? I don't remember, but basically we started in 2011 at the pace of 1 per year, and then during the cost period we had 4 every year. Funded, and it was, for example, together with the main conference events or together with the training. And what we try to do is every time that the community is organizing a training, we do train about the existence of BE, and not everyone will adhere, I would say, or will contribute at the end, but from time to time we get 1 or 2 or 3 new taggers. So.
Wow, that's great.
But I have to say the pandemic was very hard also. I mean, we are relaunching the stuff, and we are in revision in a journal, meaning that we also will launch now the machine, but the last years was kind of decreasing in activities. So we started again since beginning of this year, but we didn't have a proper tagathons since the pandemic, but we have some virtual ones.
Thank you.
A really cool resource. I was curious whether you have any interoperability with other registries of software, like BioTools. You know, how do you do any kind of exports or imports of your software data?
Exactly. So basically, it's mainly thanks to the interest of Hervé and Alban and Jonathan, and Mathis was here also. I'm not showing my screen anymore, but basically there is I am showing, yes. So I put in the presentation, I put a link here, but basically there is on our servers, there is a routine which is not on our server, by the way, sorry, it's about, it's on the Alban side, but is actually every time reading a JSON exposure that we have. So all data is exposed and dumped into a TTL format, which is converted to bioschemas, aligned with bioschemas, and looking to be basically, I'm just looking, yes. So everything is exposed at any time in this JSON format, which is documented, and every entry has then its own description also, which can be web. It's just JSON, and aligned with another way. So that's the way also we exchange with Cumulus and Cumulus, which was the other database I was mentioning, and I'm not 100% sure, but Hervé will confirm if I believe you were importing also some data from B at some point in BioTools.
Hervé has his hand up.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to add a few extra features in Perrine's work. So all of the software which are available in B are also available on in a bioschemas format. But one thing you might not be aware of, especially our friends on the North American side of things, is that bioschemas basically is JSON LD, and it is mostly just another name for code meta. It's so close to it that it's I mean, it's a shame that these two shouldn't be aligned. But the two efforts were started independently, one from another, and but shared exactly shared many implementation details. So we're currently working on aligning bioschemas and code meta, and that potentially means full interoperability between what's in B and what's in every database. Well, most of the repositories and registries in SciCodes. Is that clear?
That's very clear.
Hervé, one question. So BioTools follows the bioschemas too, right?
So BioTools was initially started as yet another project. So it had its own schema, which is not JSON LD natively. It's BioTools schema. Now many of the data are nowadays exported to bioschemas, and one of our current tasks, and I'm working on this with Alban, is to try to sort of join bioschemas and code meta on the BioTools side, so that we do not we share exactly the same metadata model. We might have some extra fields if needed, but I'd very much like to not have to maintain my own thing on my side.
I mentioned this because the BioTools is part of the crosswalk of code meta.
Yes, absolutely.
So basically, it would already be aligned.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's aligned, but we want to make it, internally using bioschemas and code meta.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Perrine. What do taggers do about conflicts?
Sorry, I have an helicopter going, but I heard the question, so I hope you can hear me. So the idea is that during a conference, taggers would, if it's not a satellite event, okay, not a tagathon, but somebody at a conference, there are some kind of what we call flying taggers, meaning that they are identifying tools, and if they can tagging on the fly during the conference and coming back to their entries. But the idea is that they identify a workflow of the tools of interest to enter in the database. And that's something I wanted to mention because it was also maybe sometimes it could be criticized, but we think it was of interest. It's not mandatorily the person who has created the tool, which is tagging it. It's anyone using it and finding it of interest, not the person developing the tool. Even
Right.
if
So then what happens if I find my tool in there and I say, yeah, this is wrong, and I want to fix it, or something like that? I did not catch. How would that happen? Sorry.
Yeah, so basically we have several levels of access. So if you are a new BI tagger, you can just create new tools. And if you want to modify a tool, you need to be a confirmed tagger. So you can contact us to be upgraded to a confirmed tagger in order to modify, or some people, they just ask, oh, this is wrong, and I modify for them, for example, or somebody else. But it's not, I mean, indeed, I'm not saying we have the ideal scheme at all. Then,
Okay, no. I mean, I'm curious, right? Because I'm not saying that these are easy questions. I was curious because on the provenance and stuff, you know, it is sometimes important to know like who tagged what to. I'm thinking about Wikidata, right? Wikidata, for example, has the history of who added what.
This
So I was wondering.
I mean, then technically it's based on Drupal, but basically every edit, there is an history which is not displayed for the user, but as an administrator, you have the access. So the main, we have as an entry, I mean, you can affect a tagger. So there is one responsible tagger for the entry, okay, which is not mandatorily the person who has created it, but because you know, he knows about it. And every entry, then you have an history with the modification, like in the GitHub process, less good, I would say, but at least you know the list of modification which was done. But this is mostly a Drupal feature, a module, specific module, I don't remember. Yeah.
Thank you.
Time for one last question, Alex.
Yes, so I have a question on the metadata that you keep for each of the entries, because I see for some you have, for example, documentation, or you have the recommended publication reference. So how do you go, like, what is the recommendation basically for, okay, how to cite the specific software, for example? Do you go with, do you have some guidelines or procedure or something to on?
So the how to cite a specific software, we have an entry said how to cite, if it's the exact meaning. So that's basically where it should be filled, because that's also why we have taggers. We don't want to make the task too hard. So I would say the quality of the data is a trade-off with the number of data, I would say. And it's we have some how to curate I would say guidelines which are very inspired and by the BioTools ones, and adapt to our own kind of representation of our ecosystem. But then, yes, some fields are mandatory, some fields are not. And if they are not, we have some routine for the administrator. We have a list of tag me page. We have a tag me page where we see the list of software which are missing important information. Then, yeah. But we don't have rules of how to cite a software when it's not specified by the software itself. The only thing we are defending, but I think it's the same thing everywhere, is that not to cite only the main software platform, but only the plugin itself when there is a way to cite it. Yeah. But if there is, we can, when it's available, we can add as a field the DOI for the software itself when it is available, but when it is not, it's empty and it's not appearing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.